asking where is everyone calling from? And I think it tricks you into not showing you the answers until you've entered your own answer. So can everyone see that? Not see that?
I can see it. So we've got Reading, Brick Lane. I guess that's Brick Lane. London, sunny somewhere.
Be sunny anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's when you put in 2 words. I think it's
yeah. France, Lille. Who's calling from France?
Where in France? I lived in France. Lived in Montpellier for a few years.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It was. It was a bit hot in the summer, though. Hot for me.
Quite a nice problem to have.
Well, it was, I guess. Oh, north of France. Yeah, nice.
English borders?
Yeah, that's me. I got carried away, so I gave you a whole sentence and a life story.
I love it.
English
life story.
Borders, and I said it was sunny and it's lovely and I'm loving it. So it's like, yeah, so you've got random words in your.
That's where all the adjectives have come from.
I love it. I thought there was a place called Loving. We need a place called Loving, don't we? And Baltimore, fabulous.
Yeah, who's calling from Baltimore? Hi, Anne.
Anne.
What's the time with you, Anne? Noon. Okay, 5 hours.
And I guess we've got another poll we can run. I don't know how many. Where are we now? If you can run both polls at the same time, or I don't know.
Good question. I know Catherine is our butter expert. Who's on a bus? All right, we've got another poll. What do you hope to get from this session? Oh.
It's gone to the next one. Can we go back?
Keeping you all on your toes. Good stuff. How are we doing for numbers? When do you want to kick off, Catherine?
Yeah, I guess I can kick off after we get some responses on this poll.
Okay. Perfect.
It doesn't make much sense to have it on Word because most people are entering one word, so I just need to show it in standard.
Oh, it's done.
So connect, community, new perspectives.
Redress, negotiation. Practical seems to have had a lot of
It's a nice little emoji there.
Okay, I think we have 15 people out of 16 answer. Yeah, guess we can move on.
Let's do it. All right, is there a slide, Catherine?
Yes.
Take it away.
All right. Just stop the music now. Welcome everyone to our Closing the Gender Pay workshop with Nancy. We are so happy to have you here, and we look forward to you, getting empowered and learning real negotiation skills from this workshop. First, I'll start with what we're about at the Female Product Lead. This event is brought to you by the Female Product Lead community, and we are a community advocating for equity in product leadership. Our vision is to level the playing field for all individuals, regardless of your color, your whatever your personal circumstances are, to be able to strive in your product leadership journey. Our purpose is to empower every of our community member with the necessary skills, confidence that they need to navigate tricky challenges in their product leadership journey. And we have four principles, the first of which is deep connections. We believe that true and authentic connection is created from a community where everyone can lean on each other, learn from each other, and, can grow together, sharing our ideas, sharing our knowledge with each other. So we want to create a community where we can get deep connections from our members, where we can help each other to grow as we advance in our product leadership journey. Second is trusted allies and advocates. Although we focus on female empowerment, female product leadership, we also welcome male allies to stand alongside us and with us and define what it means to excel as a female product leader, advocate for us and champion us in rooms where we don't have access to. Next is community led. We want a community that is co-built by our members. We want our members to grow and mature, define the direction of what we do, what events we run, what contents we put out within the community. We want everyone to feel empowered to have a voice within the community to shape the direction and discussion within the community. And lastly, free now, free forever. All of our events would always be free. All events that we do, resources we support you with will always be free now, free forever. We've just recently registered and as a community interest community, not for profit. This means that we now have access to, potentially requests for grants that will help us keep our events inclusive and free forever, keeping to our, principles of free now, free forever for every of our resources, material, and support that we provide you within the community. And these are the lovely faces behind the leadership team at the Female Product Lead. You see the QR code that has been on every of the slide. If you're not already a member, feel free to scan and you'll be directed to the link where you can join the community. We've got communities across Slack, WhatsApp, and LinkedIn. For this year, 2025, we have four themes of our event. We have the Evolve series, where we address the different transitions that women face in the journey. Transition like motherhood transition, gender transition, menopause, perimenopause, all of that we address under the Evolve series. Following up to it is the Confidence series, where we have workshop resources, materials around presence and confidence, helping you to show up and own without pretense and modeling a unique flavor of leadership that is particularly unique to you. And following up to that, we have the influencing series, which is closely, related with the influencing series, where you bring your unique voice into focus. Confidence is the start of the journey, and influence is how you are able to show up as your authentic self in your product leadership journey, in your organization, in your personal life, in your professional life. And lastly, we'll have the diversity and inclusion series, which we'll use to wrap of the year. I have here the QR code that will direct you to all of our events. And just to caption our next 3 events for the month or for the series, we have the Supercharge Work from Home coming up April 23rd, where Gemma is on the call with us today. Is going to be leading us through an interactive online workshop, how to, manage your flexible work, supercharge your work from home. Then next to it, we have Transformational Leadership, which is an online keynote that will be led by Dr. Sharp. In this, she's going to take us through a keynote on how how we can transition and elevate our product leadership, our leadership in tech, how we can transform to be that leader that we want to see in our organization. And then our next in-person event will be May 7th, which is a panel session in person where we're talking about normalizing menopause and perimenopause. We welcome you to scan that QR code at the top where you get access to all of our events on Luma. You subscribe to our Luma event link so that you get notified of any of our events. And welcome again to the Closing Gender Pay Gap workshop.
Amazing. Thanks, Catherine. That was great. Hopefully that gives anyone here who is a little bit more new to the Female Product Lead a bit of an overview of what we do and sort of what's coming up over the next few weeks as well. I have the pleasure today of introducing you all to our phenomenal host, Nancy Maher, who you'll see on your screens. Nancy is an accredited leadership development and business coach. She spent the last, I think, 30 years, Nancy, in the tech leadership space, and is now the founder of a company called Kinkajou, which is a global consultancy company focused, I think, primarily on coaching leaders who she believes have extraordinary power to influence teams. I met Nancy, I think, back in November, and was bowled away by her passion for issues like equality and gender pay, but also I think just generally her cool and calm energy, which I think you guys will feel today. And she's also got her own personal stories around salary negotiation, which I think is great for the stories today. So delighted to hand over to you, Nancy, for the rest of the session. Nancy is going to take us through a super interactive and kind of practical session that we hope will give you all confidence to have the hard conversations at work or in new companies that you're joining, and hopefully be successful in those negotiations. So over to you, Nancy.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. Lovely introduction. I think there's going to be a poll, isn't it? Do I run that poll, or does right? I don't know, Catherine, you can run the poll because I can't find where it is. So maybe if you can, thank you. Yeah. So before we get started, I was just curious to know kind of who's in the room and kind of where you're at. So it just gives us a good idea of what's the scenario that you're in. So whether you're employed and looking for a role, or looking for a promotion, or you might be in between roles and job hunting, returning to work after a career break, or not looking to change. You're quite happy. Everything's hunky-dory. So submit your answer and we'll just kind of have a little taste of where everybody's at. Okay, so the polls are coming in. So it looks like the bulk of the people are in between roles and job hunting and not looking to change. Okay, all right, cool. So I'm going to share my screen because I do have a bunch of stuff to show you. So let me share. Let me know if you can see that okay. Looks like it's okay.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, right, here we go. So my name is Nancy. I'm based in Brighton and I got introduced to Bex via Debbie, who's on the call. So hi, Debbie. And I've been in tech for 30 years and I've only just realized that apparently it's like I'm a rarity. That I stayed in tech and I was in tech for so long and was in tech leadership for so long. And I got into tech in the 90s because I thought the internet was going to be big. It was a very basic decision. So the internet's going to be big and I could make some money and have a good life. So, and that's what I did. So I ended up kind of starting as a software engineer, and then kind of moved into every role around creating a software product, from testing to designing to UX to product leadership, and then into sort of program management and project management, kind of leading teams, like lots of teams of software teams. And I ended up moving to Canada for 10 years and then to France for 7 years. And now I'm back in the UK. And my one negotiation story, I was kind of reflecting back on, kind of maybe a good story that is a negotiation and pay gap story, which was when early in my career, I never negotiated pay. I was just happy to be paid. I was just like, oh, you know, this salary seems good to me, because there was no visibility into like what the salary should be. So I was just kind of just quite happy, and I just kept getting pay rises, and I was quite happy with that. But I wasn't on a very high salary. But then as I sort of started to go up, obviously I became a bit more aware of what, you know, that there were pay discrepancies going on. So I was promoted to a role as a tech director. And my colleague at the time was also promoted, and he had exactly the same experience as me, same kind of tenure with the company, and he got a pay rise and I didn't. And I was kind of like a bit miffed about that. And so I had a really good relationship with my boss, and I thought, well, okay, I need to address this. So was a bit anxious about having to sort of kind of directly confront my boss, but basically, you know, had a good relationship, set up a meeting, made sure it was in person. And basically I was so sure of my worth that kind of got me over the hurdle of actually having that conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I got my compensation, and he said it was the toughest negotiation he'd ever had. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm quite pleased about that then, you know, because I wasn't giving him a hard time. I was just being direct, and I kind of was making my case. So that kind of taught me about just like the negotiation muscle is something that you can kind of work on and build. And once you kind of start doing it, it becomes a little easier. And that's kind of what happened through my career. So that's my little story. There's been a question about the name of Kinkajou, so I'll save that to the end, and we maybe can see if anyone can guess what it's from. Okay. So in terms of this space, non-judgment is the name of the game. Don't judge yourself, don't judge others. We're just all in this together. And if you're early in your career or later in your career, you know, every experience is valid. Connections. So if there are people that you haven't yet met and you're on the call and you don't know someone's name, just connect, you know, connect on Slack, connect on LinkedIn. And all of my workshops, they're always got a little playfulness to them. So playfulness and curiosity. So I invite you to kind of bring that to this workshop. And then cameras, your choice, on or off, same as breakouts. You know, if you're busy trying to make dinner or make breakfast or lunch, and it's hard to be in the breakout, that's fine too. So just join for the bits you can, okay? So this is the flow of the session. I've always got to have a cat in all my slide decks. One takeaway. So think about during the session to have one takeaway. So it could be something that you're going to experiment with. It could be something new to negotiate, or it could be something, or you might want to share an interesting fact with someone else, something that you thought, wow, that really surprised me. Or so think about kind of one thing, one key takeaway. So I'm going to go into some facts and myth busting. The gender pay gap data is kind of big and gnarly, and like anyone that works with data, when you look under the data, there's always variations in how you interpret it. So I'm going to keep it kind of to the big numbers, and so that you kind of get a good grasp of what it's all about. And the three messages that I want to share with you all, you know, if you have any takeaways from this session, is the gender pay gap is not women's fault, and it's due to systemic, economic and societal issues in the main. Negotiation is gender sensitive, and that's what we're going to dive into in the breakouts. And knowledge is power. So just understanding the data is really helpful. So, because it can really help us all drive change. Right, so what is the gender pay gap? So in its essence, it's just the difference between the average median hourly earnings of men and women, and it's generally expressed as a percentage. So that's, you see things like the gender pay gap in the UK is 13.5%. That's what it means. But there's two different types of data that you're looking at. One is just this overall average earnings of men and women. So this is like an unadjusted number. So that 13.5% number for the UK. And then you've got adjusted. So this is measuring pay differences for comparable work. So it might be gender pay gap data is aggregated by job type, experience, age, ethnicity. So you can start seeing the differences. So just bear that in mind when you're looking at the data. What the gender pay gap is not is unequal pay for equal work, because that's illegal in many countries. It's illegal in the UK. There definitely can be pay discrimination that goes on, but the gender pay gap is not about that. It's not about the unequal pay for equal work. So it's really about disparities in job roles, sectors, and career opportunities. So some stats. So these are some global stats. So apologies, there's going to be a few numbers kind of flying your way for the next 5 minutes, but it's good to see these numbers. So at global level, the women's participation in the global workforce is around 40%. And the global gender pay gap, so that's that unadjusted number, is at 20%. And according to the World Economic Forum, it will take about 134 years to reach gender pay parity. And I pulled out this USA one because it's just an interesting one to look at this data aggregated by race and ethnicity. So the chart is just showing the different ethnicities of women in the US. So you've got, if you look at the one on the far right, it's Latina Hispanic women. She is paid 58 cents to the dollar of a white non-Hispanic man. So that's just gives you a rough idea of kind of what the dollar value looks like. And then you have something called equal pay days, which you might have already heard of. So the lower part of the screen just shows the equal pay day. So for her, that sort of Latina Hispanic woman, it would be October the 8th, 2025, that she would have earned as much as as the white non-Hispanic man. And another report you might have seen in the news recently, at least in the UK, is the Women in Work 2025 report. So this is like an annual report. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear, there's a car beeping outside my window. This is an annual report, and it looks at all of the OECD countries. So there's 33 of those, and they cover North America, South America, Asia Pacific, and Europe. And they look at and they have an index against each country. So I'm going to flip to a very busy chart now. So don't try and process everything, but in the essence, it's just from top to bottom is the ranking in order of gender pay gap. So the countries that are doing the best are at the top, and as you go down, these are the countries that are doing the worst. So the top 3 countries, which are Iceland, New Zealand, and Luxembourg, they have something in common. They have strong parental leave, they have affordable childcare, and they have flexible working. So, and that's a pattern that you'll see in terms of some of the root causes of the gender pay gap. So the average across the OECD countries is 13.1%. So let's just look at the UK. So we are here, 18th in the table. Sorry, I know we've got folks from the US and France calling, so we can see you in the table too. So UK is 18th. So the gender pay gap is at 13.5%, and it is narrowing. It's improving, but we are now the lowest ranking in the countries in over a decade. So we've gone down in the ranking. That's what that means. So you can see the US is down here, and France is, where are you, France? Oh yes, so France is just it's a few below the UK. And all of this data is obviously publicly available. So I'm just going to zoom into the UK now. So if you look at the number of women in full-time work, it's around 70%, which is actually quite a lot below the OECD average, which is 78%. So there's a UK overall gender pay gap. And then we've got some data that's aggregated by type. So I pulled out, you can pull this out from the Office of National Statistics, but for software professionals, so that's a grouping of anyone in software, it's 17%. And then if you look at directors in tech, it's 23.8%. And then cybersecurity, which is faring the worst, is 28.2%. And a lot of this is also due to underrepresentation of women in these roles and women in more junior roles. So if we look at just in terms of the number of women, this is the Tech Talent Charter report from last year. The number of women in the UK tech workforce is at 29% and about 21% in senior tech roles. So according to this data, it's going to take about 30 years to close the UK gender pay gap. And there's a number there. How much could be added to the potential UK economy is 43.5 billion. It's a lot of money we're leaving on the table. So in terms of reporting, gender pay gap reporting, for the UK, any company with more than 250 employees must publish their pay gap data. So similarly in the EU, actually starting from 2026, any company with 100 plus employees must disclose their pay gap data. So you can find your company's reports, you can find them online, and I'll show you ways to find those as well. And there are fines, but they're rare. And if I just flip to the US, there's no federal mandate to do gender pay gap reporting. So it really varies by state. So this is an example of a tool where you can, this is UK Gov, so it's the Gender Pay Gap Service. So there's, I'm going to be sharing these resources after, so don't worry too much. So you can just go in and search for an employer name or a sector or number of employees and actually look at their pay gap data. So why does the pay gap exist? So I've already alluded to some of the factors. So there's lots and lots of factors at play. So, of course, there's sort of the systemic inequality, societal expectations of women, gendered roles, and there's also other stuff like occupational segregation, where you tend to have women in more part-time flexible roles in different industries that are not as high paying, say, as industries where you're having to be always on. So I've already alluded to identity characteristics. So depending on your race and ethnicity, you're going to get less favourable gender pay gap stats. So there's lots at play. And this woman, Claudia Goldin, she won the Nobel Prize for Economics for her work looking at areas like the gender pay gap. So firstly, she was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize solo, and she studied 100 years of economic data in the US labour market. And what she found was the kind of three main factors were this concept of greedy work. So greedy work is where employers favour people that can, at the drop of the hat, say, Nancy, fly to Baltimore tomorrow. Okay, I can stop, I can go. So this idea of workers that can just be always on and available, and don't have to deal with any kind of caring responsibilities. So the greedy work gets rewarded. Also flexibility. So that her quote here, which is if employees had more control over where and when their work got done, the most glaring gender gaps would diminish. So that talks to that kind of flexibility in working. And then occupational segregation. So certain, financial or legal being paid higher, etc., or tech than, say, education or health and caring. So other factors, probably you've heard of this. So the motherhood penalty. So research was done that showed that for each child under 5 years, that you have, it will reduce a typical mother's earnings by around 5%. So, and conversely, fathers often receive higher raises and more promotions after having children. And so the little picture at the top is just kind of showing, you're sort of going along the same line, and then a woman, comes down here to have time off to have a child, and then you already got the gap starting, and it's harder to get, back in. So what's the impact of the pay gap? So the pay gap impacts lifetime wealth, and it's not that we're all just about money, but wealth gives us security, gives us homes for our family, puts food on the table. So a researcher called Linda Babcock, who researches negotiation amongst many other things, she said that not getting paid your worth is equivalent to leaving $1 million on the table or working 8 more years to retire with the same wealth. Which is quite sort of shocking. So how does she work that out? So this is just a scenario. So if you got a 20% raise at the age of 27 and you were on a base salary of $70,000 US, that would be worth 1 million before you retire at 65. And that's because you're getting money accrued annually, and you're getting paid annual, that's assuming annual raises on top of that base salary. And of course, what's the impact? When your salary is lower, you have an impact on things like pensions. So the pension gap is huge. So it's about 40%, because you're losing out on the compounding effect of having that money build slowly in the pension and just keep building up. Right. So there's all the scary data. So how are we going to fix it? Right. So first, recognize and fix the systems. It's really hard to fix what you can't see. So just this knowledge is power is really important. There are global actions taking place. So this is EPIC, which is the Equal Pay International Coalition. So this is the only multi-stakeholder partnership that works with governments, companies, employees to actually set goals regionally, globally, and nationally to tackle the pay gap. There's company actions you can take. So here's a list of 18 actions. Each of these is a talk or more in itself. So things like, obviously pay transparency, but pay transparency that alone doesn't fix the gender pay gap. There's needs to be a sort of real multifaceted approach. So, enhanced parental leave, or the recruitment processes, and so on, and leadership. So leadership matters. So the stat that I always love is the Gallup stat that the 70% of employee engagement is due to the direct manager. So if we have a big problem with retention of women in tech, and leadership is one of the areas that I feel is a factor. So one of the areas that Kinkajou focuses is on this leadership development area. Other community actions. So you may have heard of Pregnant and Screwed. So this is a UK charity started by Jolie Brearley, who was sacked from her job by voicemail because she was pregnant. So she took action and started this amazing organisation. So it does a lot of campaigning, has great resources to help deal with the motherhood penalty. Community actions, the female product lead. This is a perfect example of a community action, like this kind of session of us gathering together. So hats off to Bex, Catherine, and Hannah and the team. Right, so now we've gone through all the data stuff. Well, hopefully you're still with me, because I feel like I'm just talking to my slides here. Can't see you all. I'm just peeking over. Right, I can see, so you're still awake. So
yeah, Nancy.
So what can you actually do? So this is where it gets interesting. So first, negotiation is not the cause of the gender pay gap, but it can help. And it's kind of like a muscle to build and to use. And there's not a one size fits all. It's really about kind of what's the style that will work for you. There is a myth which is that women don't ask, and that is not true. So women are just as likely as men to negotiate for promotions and salary raises, but women face higher rejection rates, and that's due to bias. And both men and women are about the same in terms of negotiating starting salaries. So, 32% for men, 28% for women, which means there's many people that are not negotiating starting salaries. So that's a good opportunity. So negotiation is gender sensitive. For those that are not from the UK, this is Only Fools and Horses. It's a kind of classic comedy, and these guys buy and sell stuff and doing a lot of negotiation. So there's a likability bias. So when women negotiate, they tend to get this likability bias kick in. So we're seen as less likable if we don't meet expectations of traditional gender roles. And this is an area that I did and published some research in around how to drive gender diversity in leadership with leadership coaching. So that's a little reference to my research there. So an experiment was done by Linda Babcock, this researcher and professor from the US, and she gathered people together, and she had two videos. She had a man and a woman asking for a raise with the exact same script, exactly the same. The viewers liked the man and disliked the woman. They thought she was too demanding and aggressive. So that's kind of that likability aspect kicking in, and also that negotiation is gender sensitive. So what are things that we can do? So research shows that we're more likely as women and as men to have success if we're collaborative. So we take more of a collaborative stance. So what does that mean? So this is just a couple of kind of examples. So instead of I deserve a 10% salary increase, it could be, can we explore adjusting my comp to reflect industry averages? So that can we explore, it's very collaborative. Instead of, maybe some of you might be going through this now or just gone through it, and you've got an offer that's too low. So instead of it's just the offer's too low, could be, I appreciate the offer. Could we discuss ways to bridge the gap between this offer and my salary expectations? So again, it's about problem solving. Okay. So the other aspect is, how do you articulate your worth? So I really like this method. This is someone called Catherine Valentine, who also specializes in negotiation, and she has something called the relational ask equation. And so she focuses on negotiation for women. So I'm going to show you an equation, and something that you can refer back to and dig into post-session. So she says you need to break down your past performance, your future vision, and the ask. So past performance is accomplishments that demonstrate your value. The future vision is something the company or your boss really wants. So it's really about tying your want to an actual need. And then the ask is what you need to drive the vision. So you kind of pulling these elements together. So just to kind of break down a basic example of this, instead of I need a raise as I'm not paid enough, although I think I have said that before, you could say, I've successfully launched 2 features that increased our recurring revenue by 25%, past performance. Looking ahead, I see an opportunity to expand into another market and could grow the revenue. So that's that future vision. And then the ask is, to do this effectively, I would like to have the title of senior product manager, salary of 90K, in line with the current market. So that's the ask. So you could, for example, for your scenario, go into sort of, an AI tool, like whatever the one you're using. I love perplexity.ai, and just say, here's my inputs, and then can you use this kind of framework to give me an idea of how I might want to ask for, do my pitch and make my case. So the big thing with negotiation, especially when we talk about pay gap, people tend to focus on salary, but actually a really good place to focus is on career progression, because career progression really maximizes long-term wealth and gets you up into another salary band. So it could be focused on negotiating for professional development that gets you to upper band, if that's what you want to do. Not everybody wants to do that, and that's fine. So other goals might be flexibility. It might be that flexibility is more important to you. So we're getting close to the breakouts now. So I don't know how we're doing for time. Right, okay. So I'm going to invite you to think about negotiation areas that are actually beyond salary. So it can be benefits, career progression, enablers, flexibility, money, professional development. And I'm going to give you lots of ideas from here as well. So here are a list of many, many things that you could negotiate for. And so I'd like us just to take just 3 minutes just to kind of look at this list and pick 3 items that you've never considered before, that you've just never considered before. If you've considered them all, that's brilliant. You're winning. But maybe there's some other things coming to mind. And then think about one action that you could take. It could be, just a little note to self to remind yourself that these are things that I could negotiate in the future. So I'm going to kind of come back away from my slides, and can we set a timer for 3 minutes, either Hannah or Catherine? And sorry, I see there's stuff in the chat, but I haven't been following the chat.
That's all good. We've been nattering on your slides.
Right.
Catherine, are you able to set a timer? I actually don't know how to do that.
Well, I can just do a quick timer here on my phone. It's fine.
How long would you like, Nancy?
Just 3 minutes, just to give people a chance to pause and just look at this.
Oh,
You're not going to be doing a share out of this. It's just to give you a chance to absorb a little bit of info here. So I will go on mute. Okay, so I think we're just about time's up. So brilliant. Love that little timer. So if anyone does want to type anything in the chat that was something that came up, feel free to do so, but don't feel like you have to either. And thanks for, I've just looked at all the notes in the chat, and I was just looking at Caroline, your comment. It feels more evidence of women having to do more emotional labor. I agree. So I'm not a fan of lean in. So the whole concept that we have to sort of try and lean into a broken system. However, being aware that there is this likability bias and there are just things that we can do that might help us is fine. For me, it's just like I've got things in my toolkit. So that's kind of how I a bit of compartmentalize it, but I do absolutely agree. Okay, so we are going to, I'm just watching the comments, but we're going to switch gear now and we're going to do some role playing. So before you get worried, it's this role playing is going to be basically 4 people in a room, and 2 of you are going to role play and 2 of you are going to observe, and then you're going to switch. So you're going to have script that you can read from. So you're not trying to just make up a negotiation on the fly. And I'm going to provide 3 scripts, and I suggest you just start with the first one with the first pair, and then move to the second one with the second pair. And these scripts are deliberately factoring in manager pushback. So it's showing you different ways you can be in a negotiation, and it's just to highlight the planning that you need to do for any kind of negotiation for any gender. So we're going to put you in the breakout rooms, and there's going to be the 3 scenarios. So just start with the first one and move to the second one. The first one is going to be a candidate in a job offer asking for a bigger salary. So as we've got lots of people in the room that are in the job search mode, that one should be useful. And you're going to have the script, and you can see candidate, script, and then you can see the manager's lines in blue, and you have to flip to the next page because most of them will go over 2 pages. So just read the script, but have fun. Don't take it seriously. There's a little bit of filling in the gaps, like the hiring manager's name and things like that, but just have a bit of fun with it. So you'll be so the two pairs swapping over and swapping scripts. Enjoy yourselves. Don't forget this. Don't take this all too seriously. And then when you've done the role playing, then have a bit of time just to do some group reflection. So is there something interesting about that exercise or something new for you? So that is the breakout. So just check in if there are any questions. Catherine's going to put you into the breakouts, and she's going to make sure that one of you has the PDF that you can click through the PDF. It's just something about the way the file is shared in the room. So, Catherine, are you good to go? And you'll
Sorry, I couldn't click on any other button but to exit.
Oh, I was really doing that.
Hello. Right. How are we all doing?
That was hardcore negotiations.
Caroline, it was tough.
Some of these managers are tough, man, honestly.
What does tough look like?
Hey, Bubs. Hey, Bubs. What's the deal?
Right, so everyone's back. So good you played, and just a little word about the scripts. They're not meant to be like word for word you use these scripts. It's just to give you a flavor of back, like when you're getting pushback, and also having lots of alternatives in your back pocket, because that's kind of in any negotiation, it's just having those alternatives are really important, and you have to have thought those through beforehand. And also I think, you know, Meg, you made the comment about doing the practicing with another person, especially this kind of stuff makes you extremely uncomfortable. Talking about money is good because it just kind of gets you over that sort of initial just want to hide under the table moment. So where are we for time? So I have a couple more little bits and then we can sort of go to close out. So I'm just looking at time. It'd be great to sort of chat with everyone together, but I don't know if we have time. So I will press on because there's some tips that I have. Right. Okie dokie. Research. Probably goes without saying that doing your research is important. So there's lots of tools. There's tools out there. I'm going to share after this session, we're going to share out some links, and I will have sort of top tips on research. So tools like PayScale, Glassdoor, Perplexity, whatever your AI is, talking to people that are either within your company or, you know, depending on where you are, if you're already working or you're in between, but just doing that research piece is critical. So BATNA is kind of a well-known negotiation technique, and that's what you were doing in those. Oh, are they meant to be? Oh, you can't see anything. Yeah, there are. So let me share. Thank you. I'm just pointing away here. Right. Here we go. Okay, we're back in the game. So that was my slide on research stuff. And then BATNA. So this is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So these are alternatives you're willing to accept. So in that first scenario, there was, okay, they weren't budging on salary, but you had a bunch of other stuff like a signing bonus, for example, or performance review. It could be, there's lots of things it could be. So you have to work out what those acceptable alternatives are and what you're willing to accept or what you're willing to walk away from. Okay. Groundwork. So if you're doing this to negotiate within an existing job, then doing the groundwork. So letting your boss know you want to have the conversation, and this could be like, you know, a drawn out, you know, over a period of months, is giving them the heads up and really not surprising them with a random conversation. So practice, yes. So practice. That's all I can say. Role play with colleagues. You've got people here that can role play and really learn the pushback stuff. And record yourself. So how do you sound? You know, like, so just start to, you know, if that makes you feel, you know, it's always uncomfortable to record yourself, where it is for me. But I find it really helpful if, you know, when I'm practicing stuff. So all of this is based on relationships. So having those, like, so if you're working with recruiters, it's those regular touch points and the kind of human element of building that relationship, or if it's working with your manager or HR, it's all about how can you kind of build some solid trust in those relationships, so that when you're in a negotiation, there's already this kind of foundation of trust. So finding shared interests or goals, etc. So this is some research that says that the first offer, there's lots about, should I put the first offer out there? Well, the research says you should. So it's called the anchoring effect, because when you put the first offer out, all of the discussions anchor around that initial proposal. So if you're waiting for them to put the first offer out, then it's anchored around that. But you need to do your research, because if you do put the first offer and it's too low, then that's not going to serve you. The other thing is doing a range, so it can be a range that you put in. But anyway, so this is what the research says. Group coaching. So there's a recent study that said that women who were coached received a pay rise. So 71% of coached women receive a pay rise versus 48% of a control group. So this is just some recent research. So gender pay gap's not women's fault. Negotiation is gender sensitive, and knowledge is power. And like I say, I'm not a fan of leaning in, and I'm aware this kind of having to sort of think about, how we negotiate because we're dealing with a bias is bloody annoying. But it's interesting. So for me, I just bring my curiosity lens and think, okay, what can I do to negotiate for my team in a more collaborative way so I can get things over the fence. So, and that is everything I have. So we do have a little bit of time for some chat. So there's my final slide. So I do have a freebie, which is this 91 questions to negotiate your worth. So lots of different questions by different categories, depending on what you're trying to negotiate. And it's building in this sort of collaborative model. So there it is. You can scan the code and join the mailing list. And that is that. Right. So I'm back. So how is that, everyone?
That was so good, Nancy. Thank you. Right, we've got a poll.
Right.
Poll.
You learned.
Our final poll. I think our final poll. What is one thing you've learned today that you will take forwards? That is the question. If you can keep it to one word, even better for the word cloud. If it needs to be a sentence, that's okay as well. I reckon that's preparation is key.
Mm-hmm.
Confidence, that's good. Preparation. Most people, especially women, find this awkward, so got to practice. I think that's a really good point. I definitely find this awkward. I want to, as you say, Nancy, get under the table and hide the ground to open up and eat me. But the more you do it, the easier I guess it gets.
Yeah. And it's also like you can sort of think about it as like problem solving. So it's not kind of like all of your identities wrapped up with the money thing, sort of like you're in a problem solving space with somebody else. So that's another way just to kind of shift or reframe a little.
We had this discussion in our group around hearing a no and then not retreating back into your pre-negotiation hole. So what do you do when you hear an initial no, and actually going through that process, that script that you provided, Nancy, and showing there were other things that you could do, other leverage points, especially in terms of the suggestions. So having a couple of things in your back pocket that you could bring into the conversation, even if you hear a no initially. I think that was something that it was really good just to draw that out specifically.
Yeah, I've got a really good exercise, which I don't know if I've put it in the resources I'm going to share out, but I'll try and pull it together. So basically, your goal This is an exercise which is all about getting no's. So your goal is to get 10 no's within the next 2 weeks. So it means you ask for things that you think that people will say no to. So, and the idea of it is to actually, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be of work. It can be moving tables in a restaurant, or could be calling up your broadband supplier and trying to get a better deal and asking for it. So it can be all manner of things. So this is a negotiation exercise that comes from a book called Likeable Badass, which is a book that I absolutely love. And yeah, so that's your goal, is just to go out and collect no's and get used to no's. And then what you also find is that there are things that you think people will say no to that they don't say no to. So it also gets you like, oh, people said yes, you know, so it gets you into that negotiation mindset as well.
Genuinely think if this was a race, I would win by asking my teenagers if they would empty the dishwasher. I'm not even kidding.
Okay, you can throw that one in.
I'll get to
like, how do you respond to that no? That's what's important. You don't retreat.
Yeah, you don't retreat. Yeah,
you don't retreat back to your pre-negotiation position.
No, this project is slightly different. It's to get you used to hearing no, and not finding it really triggering.
I think it's really cool. I actually read that book, Nancy, after you
recommended
it. Yeah,
you like it?
Not all the way to the end. I'm still working on it, but I've read
like
3/4 of it, and I think it's really clever.
Yeah. So the Likeable Badass. So it's saying we can be likable and a badass. So this idea that we're always walking the tightrope between too aggressive, too bossy, and too nice. It sort of challenges that, which is why I really like that book. So highly recommend it.
I'm just sharing. That's the right one, right, Alison?
Yes, maybe put it on the.
Yeah, it's a cool book.
Okay.
All right.
I think it's nearly a wrap, and I guess there was one more question, which was where does the name Kinkajou come from? I think who wanted to know that? Are you still here? Caroline, wasn't it? Me, yes. Okay, so it's going to be a really short story. So when I decided to start a company, I had to give it a name, and I had to look at what domain was available so I could get a .com, and then what I could call the company. So I pulled together all this really boring names, and the list was growing and growing and getting more and more boring, and things that were more verbs or anyway boring. And I was watching David Attenborough on a Sunday night, and then he was just like, and here comes the Kinkajou. I went, oh, that's just such a nice word. It's like Kinkajou. So basically it's it's called a honey bear, and it lives in the forests of South America, and it travels across the canopies, and it kind of drinks the nectar, gets slightly drunk from the nectar of the trees, and then goes from tree to tree. So it's really agile. It's got a prehensile tail, and then it can kind of go up and down the tree backwards and forwards. And I feel like it's a word that gives you a little dopamine hit. So that's you can look up a Kinkajou. It's if you search Kinkajou, you don't find me, you find this lovely honey bear. So yeah, and it's a good conversation starter. So when I go to networking and stuff, the name sticks because people go, Kinkajou, what's that? All right, cool,
amazing.
Well, I think it's a wrap.
That was awesome. Can everyone just come off mute and give Nancy, please, a round of applause?
Thanks for coming.
Oh my god, the sound effects, so good. So good. Does anyone have any final questions for Nancy while she's here?
The PDF that you shared in the breakouts, is that something that you were happy for us to send around to people who joined?
Yeah. And then there's some more goodies as well. So there's some more stuff that we'll send out. And then if you want to chat, or, you know, I'm on LinkedIn, and I do pop into the Slack occasionally. So you can at me in the Slack channel, but I might be a bit slower because I'm not in there every day. So, but if you have questions or just want to chat, then feel free to reach out to me. And thank you to Bex and Catherine and Hannah for organising this, and Caroline. So, and then I've got another proposal for a session, which is an I Am Remarkable workshop, which is all about how to talk about your accomplishments. So we're kind of scheduling that. So
thanks, Nancy. Yeah. There's just one more question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a quick one. If it's not, just say it's not quick. But like, one of the key pushbacks that I often hear about, and I've experienced myself, is the classic, "Oh, but it won't be fair to other people," which is highly ironic given the fact that there's a big gender pay gap. But I don't know if you've got any like go-to ways of dealing with that. Oh, it's not fair on everyone else.
I don't have anything. I mean, you're not everyone else. So I think if you talk about your worth and the value you're bringing, you will have a unique contribution. So I think if you can really articulate your worth, and that goes back to that kind of formula, and think about what is the business case for you and what makes you different from other people, because you're not everybody else. So I don't have like a phrase off the top of my mind, but what I would do with that is I'd go into ChatGPT or Perplexity and ask them what was a good comeback. Ask your exact question. I'm a woman negotiating. I know there's a gender pay gap. This is what they say. What are good collaborative phrases I could say back?
Yeah, because I think it's just one of the classic likability things, like, because it will be like, "Oh, you're being arrogant because you think you're better than everyone else," sort of thing.
Yeah, that's the little bit of gaslight. That's sort of what's behind it. Yeah, exactly, Amy. So I think it's just having these little phrases in your back pocket, and the sort of, I think, standing your ground as well. So it's just like, and it can be hard, but you know, just stand your ground.
Good stuff. All right, a couple of really quick wrap-up things from our side. Firstly, just a reminder of the events. If you didn't catch this QR code before, do scan it, because then you can sign up to Luma and you'll get notified of any new events that we add. So we'd highly recommend you give that a scan. And then just lastly, you will receive, I think, an email from Luma very shortly, which is the platform that we use for events, asking for feedback. We are, as Catherine mentioned, a CIC, a community interest company, which means we're able to access grants and financing, allowing us to keep this community free now and free forever, which is one of our principles. Please give us feedback. It is so important for us. We need to be able to give that feedback also back to the CIC folks to report on our impact. So it's useful for us, but it's also useful for the CIC folks in managing that relationship. So just take 2 minutes out and provide that feedback if you can.